I'm talking to Maggie for just, a short time before Bubba catches the chicken. I take the chicken, I put it, when Bubba didn't chase, these dogs didn't chase the chickens to kill them. And they didn't normally kill them. They did kill them sometimes, but it was about the chase with those dogs. And they were proud when they caught one. You could just tell by the way Bubba would prance to you when he brought the chicken to you. He was proud that he had caught it, but he wasn't trying to kill it. And so most times the chicken wasn't dead, and that chicken wasn't dead. But a lot of times they would be stunned and they would be just real lethargic. So you had to take the chicken and you had to put it up somewhere where, the chicken could be by itself for a minute and it would eventually, usually, come back to normal and go on about its, whatever a chicken does.
Did you get the chicken out of Bubba's mouth?
I did. I took the chicken from Bubba and I put it on top of that.
Now we've seen, this video of Paul with Cash, Rogan's dog. Did you know that was going on? What do you remember about that?
Yeah, I knew Paul was fooling with. When I pulled up on the golf cart, Maggie was standing back, sort of where the driveway would be. It sort of runs out at the feed room. The storage room's what we call it. It's been called the feed room. But it sort of ran out. Maggie was a little bit further up where she could see back in that angle where the dogs were. Paul was fooling with Rogan's dog back towards the kennel. If I remember when I first got there, Paul was more in the driveway, but then I knew Paul was in the kennel fooling with Cash, yes. But did I know what he was doing? I didn't know exactly what he was doing, no.
Did you?
I knew he was fooling with his tail.
Well, was Cash in the kennel when you pulled up, you think?
Not when I first got there.
Okay. Did Bubba or Grady have any collars on?
Yes.
Which, both dogs, one dog, do you remember?
I don't know about Grady, but I know Bubba had on his what we call a tracking collar. Paul, for his hunting dogs, Paul had a series of tracking collars, and I think there were 5, it might have been 6, but it's a tracking collar that had a device that would tell you where that collar was, so that Bubba was bad about, he would stay close for a minute, but then he would take off, and he especially do that on Maggie. He would take off and run, and so he had on a tracking collar that if he did that, you could, you could know, okay, he's, a half a mile down here. It's not going to follow him, but so far, but it would follow a good long distance. So you could go get the dog if he ran off, which Bubba frequently would do, especially when it was just Mags and Bubba. And so Paul probably would have been the one to put that on Bubba.
So you've got us where you've gotten the chicken out of Bubba's mouth and put it up on a doghouse or something?
I believe what I put it on, and I don't remember this, but I've seen pictures and all this, and I saw the chicken sitting on top of the what looks to me like a portable dog crate. Wherever it was sitting on there is where I would have put it up there. I don't have any reason to believe anybody else moved that chicken, and that chicken did die.
And what did you do after you got the chicken out of Bubba's mouth?
I got out of there. I left. I went back to the house.
All right. Well, look, before we do that, we've seen the dog kennel video with Cash and Mr. Davis, and we slowed it down for him. Did you see the water hose in that video on the ground? You remember seeing that?
Yes, I do.
Was the water hose out?
Obviously, in the video, but I don't specifically remember that, but I can look in that video and see it.
Right.
But that's not something that I noticed.
So, but.
Absolutely, Bubba and Grady.
Okay. And then you head back. How did you get back to the house?
same route. I mean, the same route I'd come on. I came down the driveway, made a left on, you saw my route in the car. I drove that same route.
My question was, obviously wasn't clear enough. Were you in a vehicle? You walked? What mode of transportation did you use to get back to the house?
Same way I came. I went back in the golf cart. And it was the golf cart, if you remember, that Mark Ball testified that he saw where we normally would park it. You pull up, pull along the front entrance, and either you'd come in from the left and you'd go just past it and be on the right, or you'd come in from the right and you'd be just past it on the left. And that's where I got in it, and that's where I put it back.
Did you do anything else before leaving after you took the chicken out of Bubba's mouth?
No.
We've heard about Bubba being stubborn. How long did it take you to get chicken out of Bubba's mouth?
Well, Bubba could be stubborn, but Bubba would listen to me. And another thing, when Bubba had on that collar, one of the other features of that collar was...
What did Bubba have on the collar, or was it Grady?
Bubba had on the collar.
Bubba had the collar.
I know Bubba had a collar on, and I'm not sure about Grady.
Okay, go ahead.
If I misspoke on that, there's no question about it. Bubba had on a collar. I assume Grady did too, but I didn't. I didn't. Even though I saw Grady, I didn't notice for a fact that Grady had on a collar.
Okay.
But he probably did.
So.
Makes sense to me that he did.
How long did it take to get the chicken out of Bubba's mouth?
It didn't take long. Number one, Bubba's coming back there to show me, hey, I caught this chicken. So he's not running from me. He's proud of that fact that he caught this chicken. So, I mean, he comes right up to me. Bubba was really strong, but you know, you take your thumb when the dog's clenched and his mouth's a little bit open. All you do is you take your thumb and you push his gum in really tight against those sharp teeth, and his mouth opens right up. Took the chicken out and put it on, I believe, the portable dog kennel.
And then left.
And then I left.
Then leave, okay. And did you go back to the house?
I went straight back to the house, to the air conditioner.
And what did you do when you got back to the house?
I lay down on the couch.
And then what? Well, I mean, was TV on when you went back?
Yeah, the TV never got cut off.
So you went back to the house, you laid down on the couch, and then what happened next?
I'm not positive I dozed off for a minute or didn't doze off for a minute, but I got up off of the couch, and I made up my mind I was going to visit my mom.
Had you spoken to Barbara Mixon earlier in the day?
I did.
And
I talked to Barbara most days. If I didn't see her, I talked to her.
And what was your understanding of your mother's condition late on the afternoon of the 7th?
She was agitated, which she got agitated when my dad, we were putting my dad in the hospital. I mean, he had a lot, over the 18 months, 2 years. I mean, my dad was in the hospital. He was in the hospital a lot. And my mom, I believe my mom knew when my dad wasn't there because, I mean, she would get agitated. I mean, that's just the only term you can think of. She'd get agitated. She'd cry a lot. She'd be fussy when she normally wouldn't be fussy. I know Alzheimer's patients are unpredictable, but I'm convinced she knew because it happened frequently. And Barbara Ann told me, your mom's agitated. You need to check on her. I gave her medicine. She's resting. So it wasn't anything urgent. But she's resting. So what Barbara would do, and Barbara could handle her better than, my mama. We all love Barbara. My mama loved Barbara. Barbara could get my mom to do things that nobody else when she fussed for anybody else, including me or my brothers or my sisters, Barbara could get her, you know, in order. And but Barbara had given her medicine and to settle her down and calm her down, and that would sometimes make her go to sleep for a little while, but then she'd be agitated when she woke up.
So did you go check on your mom?
I did.
Where did you park when you got there?
And you saw the pictures. There's 2 exits off of that deck. One of them to the right, one of them straight out that back door. I would have parked to the left. If you're coming down these steps, if these are the steps, it would be to the left and back over there.
All right.
Which is where I always parked, or where we always parked, anytime you were going in that entrance.
All right, I'm going to stop there and ask Doug, if you don't mind pulling up State's Exhibit 524, which is the GM OnStar data, and slide 38, which is in evidence. Can you see this the slide with those dots?
Yes, sir.
Alec?
I can.
And the red dots here at the that seem to be joined. Where is that in relation to your parents' house?
Where the arrow is?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's back in the area where I'm talking about. All right, so if you look in this picture, all right, you see the you see the open area with the green grass? That's the front door. Okay, yeah, right where that circle is. That's the front door. If you look closely at the house, you can see a big dormer right in the middle of the roof. That's right over the front door. The white thing to the left of the house, that's like a parking pad where the driveway ends. And there's a parking pad. So you go, if you follow the driveway all the way to the house, you're going to run straight into a carport. All right, by the carport door. Just to the left, before you get to the carport, is this area that you can see here. That's part driveway, mainly parking pad.
All right, I'm going to, Doug, if you'll pull up Defendant's Exhibit 130, which is in evidence, please, sir.
Yeah.
And from this photo, can you point out roughly where you parked that evening?
All right, this is the entrance to the right that I'm talking about. There's an exit and an entrance right in front of that door that you see there. So if you came down those steps, walk to your left, would be down there would be where I parked.
Oh, would you have parked on the grass?
You get on the edge of the grass back there. There's some grass there for sure, but it's not the area up here by the house where it's sodded and
Sure.
this grass that you can really see in this picture. So it may be on the edge of the grass, yes.
In relation to the satellite dish, are you looking at this photo, are you to the right of that?
Yeah, you'd be to the right of that satellite dish.
Okay.
Yes.
And
I believe that satellite dish is right on the edge of the, there's a hedge, and like you see the, I don't know what you call it, a border, like a border where the grass ends and the flower bed or whatever it is starts.
Right.
I think, you can't see it, but I think that satellite's probably close to that border.
All right, well, let's
So it'd be to the right of that in this picture.
Doug, will you pull up a Defendant's Exhibit 134, see if this is a... So
Yeah.
is the door that you're talking about?
That's it.
The stairs are those the ones where you would enter?
Right. These are the steps that I used that night that we always used. And one of the reasons being is my dad, this door goes into what we call the breakfast room. The breakfast room leads right into the kitchen, and so straight through this door, all of the breakfast room is kind of to the left. That door goes straight through another doorway. There's no door there, but it's like just an opening. It goes into the kitchen. Immediately to your right of that entrance into the kitchen is the entrance into where my mom and dad's rooms were. So if you went through that door, you were in a little area that had my mom's closet, my dad's closet. A little bit further, you go into my mom's bedroom. If you went to the right, you would go, my dad and my mom didn't sleep in the same room at this point, but their bedrooms were, they were back to back. There was a door going from one to the other that was blocked, but it was there, and then there was a bathroom. So this is really the part of the house that at their age was getting used. So that's why you went in this entrance, because my mom and whoever was caring for her was always in her bedroom, which would be just on the other side of the room that has these windows that you see to the right. All right, those would be the windows for the room where my dad slept.
Right.
And then my mom's right on the other side. The kitchen's right there. This is the part of the house they were always in.
And are you the only one that would pull up in the back like that?
No.
Is it common for your brothers and your sister to do the same?
Oh, we all did it. I mean, we all parked in the same way. If you knew you were going to the front of the house, or if you knew there was a crowd there, or for whatever, you may park on the driveway, but if you knew under normal circumstances, my dad always stayed in the breakfast room where he had a recliner and a TV. That's where my dad always was. My dad never, you would never go catch him sitting in the den up front or in a living room. He just wasn't up there. He was in this room watching TV, or either he was on this back deck. And my mom was either in her room, which was just off of that, or she might be in the kitchen or the breakfast room.
And when you got to the house, who was there? Your mother's house on the night of June 7th.
My mom was there, and Shelley Smith was there.
And what did you do when you got there?
The first thing I did was I knocked on the door. The door was locked. I knocked on the door. Shelley didn't hear me.
And then what'd you do next?
I called.
Called what?
I called my mom's house to let Shelley know I was there. Please come let me in.
Okay. And is that the house phone that's been referred to?
Yes.
Okay. And did she let you in?
Sure.
And then what happened next?
I went in and I visited with my mom. I mean, you want me to go into detail on that?
Well, just briefly. Yeah, what'd you do?
I went in the house. In my mom's bedroom, my mom had a bed that was where she slept in normal times. It was like, a bed with, the poles coming out of the corner, a poster bed that coming out of the corners. And she had a bed like that where she slept, but she didn't sleep there anymore. But it was in the room. It was a hospital bed. So when you walked in the room, her bed was to the right. Against the wall to the left was a hospital bed, like a single bed, but a hospital bed, and a TV. And then there was a recliner where whoever was helping her would usually sit. So I went in and I sat down on my mom's hospital bed. And I just talked to her for a minute. My mom was awake, and I held her hand. And
what kind of condition was she in?
Her condition was not good at any time, but given her overall condition, she seemed to be doing pretty well. I mean, she wasn't agitated like I thought she would be, or like I was worried she would be, or like Barbara had described her at that point. So she wasn't agitated. And, I just talked to her. Anytime we talked to my mom, we always tried to be real positive and, upbeat and just and I just talked to her. You know, I just talked to her, made sure she was okay.
Did you stay seated on the side of her hospital-style bed, or did you move around?
I mean, I stayed there for a few minutes. You know, I stayed there and I talked to her more than just a few seconds.
Right.
And then, but I didn't stay there. She was, she did look tired. So I got up and I went and I think I sat on my mom's bed for a minute to start with, and then I laid down on my mom's bed, which is, you know, that's what I normally did when I went in there. There wasn't like a lot of chairs to sit in, and I just laid back on the bed.
Now, when you
Talked to
talk,
Shelley and we watched TV.
now when you're talking about your mom's bed, are you referring to her regular bed?
That's right. Not her hospital bed, not the bed she was in, but her bed, the one I was talking about with like posts.
Right. Let me skip something. Was Maggie planning to go over to your mother's with you that night?
No, she wasn't planning to go with me that night.
Okay.
No,
Was-
in fact, Maggie didn't really like to visit my mom. She loved to visit my dad, and she loved to spend time with my dad. And she spent a lot of time with my mom when my mom was healthy. But, you know, I mean, by this point, my mom, she was a shell. And she was a shell of her old self. And
Okay.
I mean, it was kind of sad to go and visit her anytime. I mean, she wasn't healthy. And Maggie didn't like to go and just visit my mom.
When you left Moselle to head to Almeda the evening after you'd gone back to the house at Moselle, what
Say that again, Jim?
what exit did you use of the Moselle property when you're going to Almeda on the evening of June 7th?
I went out the main gates, which would be straight ahead. You've heard of the two gates. There's the shop entrance. There's actually several entrances, but the main ones we used, there was an entrance by the Dove Field, there was an entrance further down by Sawtooth Oaks, but the main ones we used were the shop entrance and what we call the main entrance, where the brick gates were.
Did you go? Why didn't you go by the kennels on your way out?
There wasn't a reason to go by the kennels at that point, and I was going to Almeda, which the main gate would be the gates that were closer.
Did you notify Maggie in some form that you were leaving to go to see your mom?
I tried to call her.
And did she answer?
No.
And what'd you do after that?
I think I tried to call her again.
And did she answer?
No, she didn't answer. And at some point, I texted her after that.
Well, the fact that she didn't answer on 2 times, did that concern you?
At that time,
Right.
it didn't concern me at all. Number one, she was with Paw Paw. So, no. I mean, number two, I mean, it's not unusual to not be able to get somebody all the time when they're at the house or they're on the property. I mean, you've heard all the testimony about how spotty cell service was. So, no, at the time, it didn't strike me as anything unusual.
Okay. Now, moving back to Almeda, you spent time with your mother, and then you left to head back to Moselle. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you drive straight back to Moselle?
I did.
Now, Alec, there's some information from the telemetry data off your Suburban and perhaps some of this OnStar GPS data that indicates that at some point in time in your mother's driveway, you stopped for about a minute. Do you recall seeing that data?
I did.
What were you doing when you stopped? Do you recall?
I was getting my phone that my phone had gotten, there was a console in the middle of my car, and my phone had gotten down in the console, between the console and the seat where you couldn't get to it.
Were you, during that minute or however long it was, were you disposing of murder weapons, Alan?
No.
Were you disposing of bloody clothes?
No.
And your ride back to Moselle, was it, were you driving faster than normal?
I was driving however I drive, normal way that I drive.
When you got back to the Moselle property, how did you enter the property? What entrance did you use?
Came right back through the main gate,
And what'd you do then?
went straight to the house.
And when you got to the house, what'd you do?
I went inside.
Were lights on when you pulled up? Or?
Lights were on in the house for sure. I can't remember if there were or any floodlights on, but there were definitely lights. All the lights in the house were on, yes.
And when you, how long did you stay inside the house, roughly?
Now that I've seen the benefit of these records, I was in there several minutes.
Obviously, I mean, were you surprised that Paul and Maggie had not made it back to the house?
You know, I don't know if surprised is the right word, but I mean, I thought they would have been back by then.
Right.
You know, but I mean, did it cause me to go into any? It wasn't like I was shocked. But I mean, I thought they would be there. I mean, I distinctly remember, you know, I went and looked. Sometimes I was very hot-natured. Number one, I was hot, I was heavy, and I was taking pills. So I was always hot. Maggie was always cold. Sometimes she would watch TV. We had a TV in the hunting room, you see on the wall there. Sometimes Maggie would be in there watching TV where she could have the thermostat different than we always kept it cold in the main part of the house. So I know I went in there and looked in there for her. It's not unusual for Maggie to be taking a bath and be not able to hear me, so I went back there and so, you know, I knew they'd been at the kennels, and I assumed they were still up there.
So what'd you do?
I went to the kennels. I may have tried to call them. In fact, I probably did try to call them. I would think I called them. But as I sit here right now, I'm not positive, but I would think I did. Would think I tried to call them to see.
And now, did you drive down to the kennels in your Suburban?
I did.
What'd you see?
Saw what y'all have seen pictures of.
Crocodile teeth.
So bad. have some water? Yeah, I went to,
Did you see them on the ground when you're pulling up in your Suburban?
I did.
And what'd you do when you came to a stop, Alec?
I think I jumped out of my car. I'm not exactly sure what I did, but no, I got out of my car. I know I ran back to my car, called 911. I called 911. I was on the phone with 911, and I was trying to tend to Paw. I was trying to tend to Maggie. And I just went back and forth between them.
Were you going to Paul and Maggie while you were on the phone with the 911 operators?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And in a little bit, I'm going to play the 911 tape, but I just want to ask you, and you've told law enforcement that's been played here in the court, what did you do when you went up to Paul at some point in time?
And Paul. Paul was he was so bad. At some point, I know I tried to check him for a pulse. I know I tried to turn him over.
When you say you tried to turn him over, why were you trying to turn him over?
I don't know. I don't know why I tried to turn him over. Me and my boys laying face down. And he's done the way he's done. His head was the way his head was. I could see his brain laying on the sidewalk. I didn't know what to do. I tried to turn him over. So I grabbed him by the belt loop and tried to turn him over. And when I did, his phone popped out.
You notice how he
His phone popped out. And just picked it up and I put it right back there.